This here is Chuwi's latest Android 11 tablet. It's called the HiPad Air. It has a fully laminated IPS screen in it. It's got a unibody build. And for the price tag, which is selling for currently under $200 US, it is actually offering quite a bit. Optional Bluetooth keyboard that I have. So what is the HiPad Air powered by? Well, it's using that Unisoc Tiger, the T618. We've seen a lot of that 12 nanometer chip with the Mali G52 graphics. Now, it can surprisingly play titles like Genshin Impact or PUBG with an okay frame rate, and performance doesn't seem too bad on this. It has a 7,000 milliamp hour battery, and we also have 4 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes of eMMC 5.1 storage, which is expandable with micro SD card support. Our tablet comes in a plain brown typical Chuwi box, which looks like that, so nothing exciting there. And what is included with that tablet? Well, we get our power supply, which is only 10 watts USB. This is the Euro adapter, obviously, that I've got because I'm based here in Spain. And then a Type A to Type C cable. Now, because it's only 10 watts, the charge time is rather slow. It's about 2 hours and 40 minutes to charge the 7,000 milliamp hour battery. The HiPad Air is 470 grams. And we do have this grey, which is like an Apple space grey color. So the back of it's all made out of alloy, the outside edges, everything too. Build quality is excellent. It feels like a more premium tablet. I mean, this is only selling for about 170 or so euros here. And the build quality is really good considering other brands like All Cube, they have all plastic with their T610 tablet, but not with the Chuwi right here. So the camera on the rear, we've got an autofocus 5 megapixel camera, LED flash here. The front camera is also 5 megapixels. So again, with the nice metal around the outside, this is a plastic volume up and down button, and you'll notice that I've pulled out the SIM tray and micro SD card slot. Well, it doesn't actually support a SIM. It's being blocked off. That's because there is no 4G support with this. Whereas other tablets that have this chipset, that Tiger T618, will have LTE band 20 4G dual SIM support. So this is only micro SD cards for expanding on the storage. Now I tested out my 128 gigabyte card, no problems. So thickness right here is just under 9 millimeters. It's about 8.8 millimeters, so good thickness. On the left side, we've got our power button. Again, it is plastic. And then here you'll see on the right, we've got our 2 loudspeakers. Now, they are left and right stereo speakers, but there's just 2 of them. It would have been great if they had another 2 also there on the left side, and that would give us the 4 in total. So Type-C port, this supports data. It does not support video out. I wouldn't expect it at this price point. And it does come with this pre-applied screen protector. So you just remove the first layer here. That's just a little bit about the specs of it, which of course we already know. And our keyboard that you can get, this is an optional extra. So it has this felt suede synthetic material on the rear and on the other side here. And it uses magnets to clip onto the back of the tablet. So you simply need to lift it up. You place it in here. Magnets take care of the rest of it. They're quite strong, so I've had no problems with this coming off easily or anything like that. You can just see the Chuwi branding right there, and this is the level we have. So you simply just prop it up like so, and there we go. That is now set in place. It's optimized this single angle that it's got for use on a table, and I don't find it to be too bad, the angle they have gone with. Now the layout of the keyboard, it is a little bit cramped, but not too bad considering they only had 10.3 inches to work with. Half-sized up and down arrow keys. We've got our function and Z right there to connect up into the Bluetooth mode. So yes, it pairs up via Bluetooth. It's not a hardware connection like the HiPad Plus has. And you can see status LEDs right there. And overall, the thickness of it isn't too bad. I'll get onto that shortly. So the travel with these keys is approximately about 1.5 millimeters. It doesn't feel too bad. So if you're going to be typing a lot, this is so much better, the hardware keyboard, even though it's just connected up via Bluetooth, than, typing away on screen keyboards. So with the keyboard case on it, it now brings up the thickness to 18 millimeters, and the weight of it now is 780 grams. Our front camera here in the top bezel is flanked by dual array microphones that you can see, and this one, like the rear camera as I mentioned, is 5 megapixels. Here is a sample of that front megapixel camera. Now the quality of this camera is only 720p the resolution, and it looks to be close to 30 frames per second. Some of them can be very choppy at only about 15. What is strange though is it's only 720p with a front-facing camera, yet we can record 1080p on the rear. And according to Chuwi, these are supposed to both be 5 megapixel cameras. So software, I hope, can adjust that and make it 1080p with a front-facing camera. Microphones, of course, that you are listening to are from the tablet. And the screen in this, so we've got that 1200 by 1920 resolution, fully laminated, 10.3 inches. Now, the brightness in this, it tops out at 290 nits, which is fine for indoor use. Outdoors, you will struggle with it. Now, I have another tablet that I'm currently testing and reviewing. It's the ThinkPad M10. It can do a crazy 700 nits. It is super bright, so compared to this one, it's not quite as good. So, blacks, they still look quite deep and good. With an IPS panel, this is a very acceptable level. So quite punchy, quite good with the colors, and overall touch response is good. I do like this screen. I think, again, for a tablet that's selling for, at the moment of this video, around 170 euros or under 200 US dollars, it's a good screen, okay? And touch gestures, they're all working fine. Under display settings, you'll find our typical Android 11 options here, that we do have adaptive brightness with this tablet. I've got it turned off because of the fixed tests I'm doing at the moment. So there is a little ambient light sensor up here next to where the microphones are. And again, at the price point that it's selling for, it's good that we do have this option so it can automatically adjust that brightness for us. So color and contrast, scaling, that's all there. You can adjust the white balance to how you prefer it. I'm keeping it all on the outer box settings, which is the color standard, but automatic contrast, and that does make things just look a little bit more punchy with the colors. Now, I'm not color grading this to make it look any better or worse than what it is. It's pretty much trying to capture exactly what it looks like here on camera for you. Now, it is running Android 11, which is great, so it's pretty much up to date there. We won't get Android 12 with the tablets yet until next year sometime. So FM radio is on board, but what isn't on board with this one, as I mentioned before, there's no 4G. So that means no phone calls, no text messages, even though you can see we've got, well, the text message app there, the messaging app, but nothing's going to come up, okay? Oh, you can use it to pair up with your phone, but it's not like native hardware support with it is not, they're not present. So ROM performance, I've got to give Chuwi credit where due here, that for the Tiger 618 with 4 gigabytes of RAM, which I've seen on other models here, it is fairly smooth and fluid, the performance. Multitasking when you do something really heavy, so for example, if I swipe up now, if I did have, say, Genshin Impact in the background, it would lag when trying to swap over to different apps. But right now, with quite a few different apps open here in the background, it's actually very smooth and feeling quite fluid there, more than you would expect for this chipset, especially when you look at the benchmark scores out of it. Now, when you do take this nice new shiny tablet out of its box, you take off that screen protector, you boot it up, this is what you are greeted with pre-installed apps. So it is basically a stock Android 11 ROM here. It's using a stock launcher, no bloat, and that definitely helps keep up the speed there with it. There's over-the-air updates. Now, Prime Video, that's something I installed myself, and I'll get onto the reasons to why that is. So free storage, you're looking at about 116 gigabytes. Remember, you can install a micro SD card, expand upon the storage. I did test out a 128 gigabyte card, move some files over to it. I didn't encounter any problems there. So I don't know about other capacities. If you want to try out even larger capacities, they should, in theory, work. So this is their over-the-air update system, so Chuwi can push out bug fixes. But with all of these brands that I do review with these more affordable tablets, they won't be pushing out a major update. So I would never expect this tablet to get Android 12. They just wouldn't bother. They would probably be releasing then the HiPad Air 2 or 3 or whatever the model's going to be called. Just a newer piece of hardware there for us. So there is some good news and some bad news here. Just like the HiPad Plus, I think it is, model that I reviewed before, they got the security level 1 here. Now, Chuwi is the only Chinese manufacturer, or the brands that I cover at least with these more affordable tablets, that is doing this, which is great. So that means we've got DRM level 1 that we need for Netflix and Amazon Prime Video. However, at the time of this video, testing out Netflix, I'm still in standard definition for some reason. So that hopefully will be changing soon because they do have the cert already. Maybe it's something to do with Netflix. Amazon Prime Video, unfortunately, is standard definition, and I don't see Amazon updating what is basically a whitelist of approved devices to include this Chuwi. I don't see that happening. But Netflix, I do in the future see them getting at least full HD, which will be great. So battery life, this is the fixed test, 200 nits of brightness, let it go until it runs down to 20%. It ran for 7 hours and 35 minutes. Now, Chuwi, they claim that it can get 8 hours runtime, which at 200 nits of brightness, yeah, it will be able to achieve that. So battery life is okay, but I have seen better. I've seen other tablets with this spec, larger batteries, being able to achieve maybe an hour or two more. Now remember the display in this, it's just 60 Hertz and what is basically full HD resolution. Well, that's 16:9 aspect ratio. Sorry, 16:10 aspect. So eMMC 5 for our storage. And it's not too bad. 128 gigabytes here. Sequential reads and writes are good. Randoms are good. With this particular chipset, it will not actually be bottlenecking and holding it up. So Antutu score, for some reason I could not get version 9 to run. It just kept asking me to install the 3D part of it, which I'd already done. And I spent hours trying to fix it, so I reverted back to an older version here. But still, the score, 200,000 points. We know that this is not a powerful chipset. The Tiger, it's 8 cores, the Tiger 618. It's a 12 nanometer chip. Mali G52 graphics is okay, can play all the titles out there, and I will get on to that gaming performance. PDF files and ebooks do look very good on this screen, fully laminated. It's not bad. So this is really like the other T618 tablets that I've looked at. This is really what this tablet is good at. These kind of more basic multimedia, things like this, ebooks, PDF files. Runs well, looks good on the screen. When you do, I'll just double tap here, zoom in, look at the text. It's sharp enough, okay? It's not the sharpest, it's not a QHD or a 4K screen or anything like that. But at normal reading distances, it looks good. Do remember though that this, of course, I'm using Google Play Books here, so I do have the option to invert the colors, but it's also built into the ROM. You can go down, you can put the blue light filter on, you can change and tweak that eye comfort, they call it there, and you can invert that too with Google Play Books. At least when you're looking at ebooks too, you can invert the colors, so black background, white text, whatever, you're able to do that there. So good for ebooks. Now, sadly, with audio, we do not have this 3.5mm analog support. That would have been great, and I still want it on my tablets, and sadly, it is not here. So we only have the 2 downwards firing speakers. They sound okay. I've definitely heard worse. I have certainly heard better, and here is an example of them at 100% volume. So overall, I think the speakers, the volume is definitely good, and they have a tiny little bit of bass to them. So they are better than what we have had in previous models from Chuwi. So 16:9 content on this 16:10 aspect ratio screen, like YouTube right here, means that at the top and then at the bottom, we are going to have a small border. Oh, and I know what you're thinking. Didn't I mention FM radio? Yes, it's on board, but how does it work if it doesn't have a 3.5mm headphone jack? Well, they have wired it up via the Type-C that the headphones will be our antenna. And you'll see, I've got a Type-C to 3.5mm adapter. You simply need to plug that in, and everything is going to be then enabled and works. You can listen to your favorite radio stations. It's just annoying that there is no 3.5mm headphone jack to start with. Gaming performance now. So one of the most demanding games is Genshin Impact. Yes, I pronounced it, I believe, correctly. A lot of people have been losing their minds because I said Genshin Impact before because it's Gen, but hey, let's call it Genshin Impact. That's a little bit more correct. So this is on the lowest possible settings, and you know what? You can see it's playable. It's okay. It runs fine with the Tiger T618, and it's only got the 4GB of RAM, but you will see that just happened, okay? So now and then, it will do that like little caching, little micro starter, little pause. So the gameplay is not flawless, but all of the titles out there on Google Play Store, they are playable. Just use lower settings, and that way you get a more enjoyable experience with a more fluid frame rate. And then everyone's favorite, PUBG. What settings can we go with? Well, the good news is it will at least let us have this option, which is Ultra, okay? So anything smooth and balanced will be Ultra maximum. As soon as I go to put it on HD, which does look visually better, the frame rate is then reduced to 30 frames per second max, which I don't think most people would want that. So I'm going to go here with balanced and Ultra, and we'll take a look at the gameplay. So I've picked up 1 kill already, and the performance is good. Capped at that 45 frames per second, unfortunately. I would really like them to change that to developers, I hope. can allow us to run at least 60 on the smooth setting, but balanced at the 45 frames per second cap here. It's good. It's playable. You can get your kills, no problems there. And all the other games in the market, as mentioned, they're going to be playable on the Mali G52, which is the GPU, of course, we've got with this Tiger T618. Now, to summarize here, I do like what I'm seeing from the build quality. That unibody metal build to it makes it feel a lot more premium than others. The keyboard design isn't so chunky like the other ones as well, where you're clipping the tablet itself into this plastic frame that holds it. It's more, well, chunky, and this is just a more thinner, nicer approach to do the keyboard. And of course, it just has that one upright position, which is optimized for table use, which is probably where most people would be using the keyboard and typing on it anyway. Now, the other things that I do really like about this particular model here, well, certainly I like the performance of this ROM. I think for the Tiger 618, Chuwi's done an excellent job with the optimization. It just seems to be more fluid, more responsive than the other models out there that I've tested with the same chipset. Now, screen brightness tops out at 290 nits. I would ideally like to see a lot brighter, but for indoors, not defending them or anything, it should be brighter, but for indoor use, it's going to be fine. However, if you're going to use it in direct sunlight, you will struggle. But good to see it's fully laminated. So build quality definitely there. That's great. ROM performance good. Battery life, as I mentioned about, I showed you about 7 hours, 8 hours you can squeeze out of this. YouTube performance is fine. And gaming, it will play titles that you would think that it might not be able to play, because you look at that synthetic benchmark score of Antutu and go, ooh, that's going to be terrible for PUBG, terrible for Genshin Impact. But it's not actually, it's okay on the lower settings. So game's all right. For the price point, definitely it offers a lot. However, we are missing 4G support, which the others have with the same chipset. So with that Tiger 618, most of them have. The LTE band 20 4G dual SIM support, not there. GPS, not there. 3.5mm headphone jack, sadly missing. No HDMI out as well. But we do have micro SD card support, and we do have that wide variant level 1 cert. So Chuwi's got that, and like their other model, the HiPad Plus, if I'm not confusing my names here, HiPad Plus can play Netflix in full HD. So I believe soon, maybe just it's going to take maybe a month or so, it should be able to run Netflix in full HD, this model. It's just a matter of waiting. I'll update you, I'll pin a comment in this particular video with that. So once it gets it, it's a definite positive there, because all the other brands I review, like AutoCube, TechLast, those other guys, they don't bother with the DRM. They don't bother getting the level 1 cert. At least Chuwi is now doing that. So there we go. That is the HiPad Air. Thank you so much for watching my review. I think it's a good, decent tablet for the price tag, especially if you're after a general, okay performance, all-rounder. It's not a flagship. It's definitely not a mid-tier either. It is, well, lower end, but at an affordable price.